Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Lia, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists, and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey everybody, it's Leah Riley here.
Hello, it's Megan. So this is like a weird recording day for us because it's Friday at like noon for you, isn't it?
It is. It
And
is
Friday
noon on a Friday, which it's because we were going to record on Wednesday, and we're gonna unpack the why in a little bit of how we ended up with the podcast we did, but we came up with the plot twist of the podcast at like the 11th hour.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need some time to like sit and digest that. I can't just I'm not gonna be able to like pull this one like right out of my pootie.
Yeah. So we gave ourselves some more time, so that's why we're recording today. But first I want to talk about what I did last night because it actually is relevant to what we're talking about.
It is absolutely relevant.
Yeah. Which I didn't even realize, so I was like done. I was like, wait a minute. So my daughter and I went to go see our high school performing arts production, the musical that they have for the fall, and it was Six, the musical. So Six is on Broadway, and if you're not familiar about it, it's basically the story of Henry VIII's six wives, but they're reimagined as like modern day pop stars, basically. So their outfits are a little bit more modernized. They use modern terminology to talk about like their situations, but they're also telling their stories. So each song is them. The whole point of the musical, at least what I think, is like giving their voices back to them, which I mean that they've mentioned that in the musical as well. And what is so incredible, like I now want to go see it on Broadway because I want I want to watch it again, basically. Um, It's only these 6 girls. So I'm saying girls because this was a high school production. Uh, it was only 6 of them on the stage the entire time. 75 minutes. They did not leave the stage. There's no backup dancers. Essentially, each one kind of gets a song, and part of what they do is they're competing with each other a little bit on who had it worse. Okay? I mean, understandably, pretty much all of them had it bad. Only really
There's
Anne of
like some dark
Cleves.
humor to it.
There's some dark humor. Anne of Cleves got out of the marriage pretty good. She had a decent life, but everyone else, no. And so first it sets up as like a competition, but then they realize like, why are we competing? Why don't we just want to tell our stories? We want to be, and it's interesting because they do discuss, you only hear about us as a wife. We're an ex-wife. Like that's who we are, but that's not who we are. And so it's really cool to hear their stories because their songs, while yes, they're telling their story in relation to Henry VIII, they really are talking about them. So maybe they're talking about the loss of a dream, or they're talking about their opinions, or they're talking about their feelings about the situations they've been put in. Like Catherine Howard is kind of like famously, she was beheaded at like 17. I mean, she was a child.
A child, literally.
A child.
The Republicans may not say so,
Yeah,
but
she was 100% a child. She was groomed by several men in her life, and she was beheaded because of it. Okay, and listening to the way her song was just so creative, and because it kind of explains like how she felt, how those men made her feel, how at the beginning as a child she felt like she was being loved, and then by the end of the song she realized like it was never about love. And it's just really, really like it brought a tear to my, I mean, I cried actually like maybe 2 or 3 times, just because I thought first of all that the girls did such an incredible job, but also it just felt really empowering to sit there and watch 6 girls give voices back to these women who are done so freaking dirty hundreds of years ago. And so yeah, I guess if you have a chance to see Six on Broadway or a touring version of it in your area, I recommend it because it was the songs are so much fun. FYI. I mean, you're like clapping, like, Jane Seymour's song is sad and kind of like a ballad, but they're all, like it's very funny too. It's very, very funny.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I mean, I've not seen it. I only know it from the soundtrack. I do really wanna see it. I have so little FOMO in life, but all my FOMO is pretty much around Broadway.
Yeah.
Because I think about how when I was, like, in New York for a writers thing, and my friend was like, "It's gonna be my 40th birthday. I wanna go to a Broadway show. I wanna take you, and I have 2 ideas that I'm mulling around." And I was like, "Okay, well, first, thank you for wanting to take me, and then secondly, like, what are they?" And she was like, "Wicked or this, like, I don't know, this musical that's about, like, Alexander Hamilton." It was when it was, like, the
That sounds right.
original fucking cast, and I
Yeah.
was like, "I, like, hard pass on the Alexander Hamilton, like, let's
Shut
go
up.
to Wicked." Like, I didn't look at I knew I regret this.
I don't think I knew this story.
Yeah, it
Stop. I
was
mean,
me.
Wicked's pretty cool too,
It
don't get
was
me
so
wrong.
good, but it
Yeah.
was me and Jen Ryan, like, the author Jen Ryan, who is one of my good friends, and, yeah, it was just, like, and Wicked was amazing to see, but also, like, original cat like, what? And then, the last time I was in New York, I met up with you, but, like, I let my kid sometimes sometimes I'm, like, too developmental for my own good. I was like, "You can pick what we watch." So we saw Wicked again because they wanted to see Wicked. And again, no shade on Wicked, it's just I've seen Wicked, like, a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
and, but I was, like, happy for them both to see Wicked in the theater because I think it's an amazing show to see in the theater. So we saw Wicked, and then I was like, and I was like, "I really wanna see Hadestown or Six, but I'll let you decide, like, what's the other one." And they landed on Book of Mormon, which, like, no hate, but, like, I was like, "No," I mean, I could have lived without it,
Yeah.
and the fact that I didn't see Hadestown on Broadway, like, you're gonna see that you're seeing that pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing that in like a few weeks in
Yeah,
my local theater. It's a touring Broadway group,
yeah.
so
So, some days I wanna yeet myself that I didn't see that,
yeah.
or and barring that, I would have loved to have seen 6, and
Yeah.
so those are coming. The cast right now, for Hadestown on Broadway is really good again. I wanted to see it when Ani DeFranco was playing. I will say, I think I've talked about this in the past, my one bright spark was we were walking by, like, the stage I don't know, what's the stage door, the
I know
exit,
what you yeah.
um, right when the, DeFranco's final show was occurring, and I didn't know there was just, like, a crowd, and when it's in New York and there's a crowd, maybe that's dangerous of me. I'm like, "What's happening? I
Yeah.
wanna see very much." Like, we did that when the who came by, like, a president what president? It was, like,
It was
Biden?
Biden. It was Biden's, like, motorcade. We're like, "Let's go see what's going
"Let's
on."
go see," and they had, like, their fucking automatic rifles, and they were
Yeah,
like,
the
"No, you
snipers
won't."
on the roof
We were like, "Ooh, maybe we shouldn't be such looky-loos with the
walking with our
sniper."
kids.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm lifting my children up, like, "What do you see? What do you see?"
We're
'Cause
just
Biden's at
moms.
fucking Stonewall, like, what were we doing?
I don't
And then there was, like, yeah, the sniper, and your son was like, "What is happening?" Anyway, yeah, so stage door, I'm like, "What's happening? What's happening?" Well, in this case, I got to see Ani DeFranco, and that was cool, and I was like, "I'm not gonna push in, I didn't see the show," but I mean, like, I do love some Ani DeFranco, so that was nice. But anyway, this all being said, 6 is, I think, a real like you said, they're trying to remind people that, like, these women's humanity has been very much linked to this, like, very unpleasant man that they all had to be married to,
Mhm.
and, like, women women should be enough on their own, and yet the patriarchy can, like, affect your story forever,
Yeah,
which
and it
is
was
what we're gonna be talking about today.
we are, and let me just say one thing too. One thing I found interesting about the musical is that Henry VIII himself was not a character.
Thank God.
It was
For typical.
really not about him, and even when they were talking about, say, their marriage, like, Jane Seymour had a whole song about how she really, like, loved him, but it was about her feelings. It wasn't like, "Oh, I love him because he's, I don't know, a king or whatever." She was just like, I love him because, like, I'm a pure soul, like, this is who I am, I stand by my man." It's all about her. The
Mhm.
songs were about the women, And when I saw that was, like, the main thing I
The
came
only
away
reason we
from.
know about the women is because of the like, I mean, like, even though, like, I see the intention, like, the overall framing that you can't escape the irony of is that, like, he does I'm really glad they made a choice not to have him there, and, like, he's there. Like,
I know. But the shadow of him is there. Yeah, in
yeah, and I
everything.
think even if you don't like and that's an interesting thing to look at and, like, kinda talk about no matter what, is, like, even when you're trying to be, like, not that, you still have to have that to be in opposition to that, right?
Yeah, I know. It's like a weird nuance that sometimes it's hard for me to, like, wrap my brain cells around, you know what I mean?
And this is kind of how we got into, like, our, like, mental fuckery around, what we wanted to talk about because so what happened, like, the nexus, and then you can get into the framing of Mask Girl, is you watched Mask Girl a little bit ago, like, it's been a little while.
Well, I didn't even it came out in 2023, so I watched it in 2023 because I watched
Okay,
it
so
when it
yeah, it
came
has been
out.
a yeah, okay, because I feel
Yeah,
like it had been a minute, and so you
yeah,
mentioned it, and I don't know what it was. Like, I just did not pay any attention to it. Like, I don't know if I just, like, saw the image. Like, I don't know what it was, but, like, it's just, like, sometimes a drama's ready for you when it's time for you. So I didn't look into it that much, but I candidly you were like, "It's really good." I was like, "I'm glad it was good." Like, I'm just not there. So this year, what has been interesting in my drama watching is, like, those, like, kind of comfort, like, fun, rom-commy whatevers, not landing for me quite as well as they normally would. Like, and it's not because necessarily execution, like, it's, like, where I'm at, and, like, some of those things like Tempest, which are, like, a little bit more of kind of like the, like, serious dramas kind of taking that like, that didn't super land for me. But what has landed for me has been like, I mean, there's a gradient, but, like, I am a basic bitch Squid Game stan, but, like, that lands for me, and I was like, I want more, like, I want some more kinda, like, fucked up, like, twisty stuff. Tempest, I went to thinking it was gonna give me what I wanted, and it wasn't like, I didn't get the kind of story I was looking for, which we can quibble on Tempest at another time, but for me, I was like, "I'm looking for something, I need to, like, figure out how to articulate it." So I kind of went to you and was like, "I want something that just feels like kind of like" I do want things that are disturbing to me and shocking, like Strangers from Hell vibes. Like, I'm looking for things that I'm gonna sit and think about and,
yeah,
like, kinda be fucked up by.
yeah,
And I don't know why I'm a masochist to myself in 2025, but, like, I'm like, I kind of just want that. And you
yeah.
were like, Mask Girl."
I
And
was
I
like,
was
if you
like,
want, like, fucked up chaos, that's Mask Girl. It
"Yeah."
is.
So I was like, "'Kay, I'm gonna check it out." It took me I don't even think I was a minute through the intro when I was like, "This is exactly what I'm looking for." Like, this
Yeah.
is, like, stylistically,
Yes.
story, like, everything about this, it feels I'm trying to think of, like, how to say it without seeming like I'm, like, just, like, cheesing on it, but, like, because when I'm like, "It feels fresh," but, like, it
But it
feels
does.
interesting immediately, and I feel really off-centered. Like, I feel off-centered in a good way where I'm like, I don't know what's going to come in a really good way, and I'm very unsettled by it, and I want to have these feelings.
Yeah. I would say Mask Girl, you don't know what's coming. You truly I don't care what anyone I mean, if you predicted Mask Girl, then I don't know. Like, be a psychic somewhere because you'll make money because it's a wild ride.
And what is really funny is that so we're not gonna also, let me just highlight, this is not going to be a spoilery episode. We decided also to make it not a spoiler episode, and we'll get into why. Like, there might be some minor spoilers because we're gonna talk about some plot points, but we're really not gonna, like, lay out the whole thing. We are encouraging you to see it or at least, like, engage with the broader themes here in the conversation
Mhm.
today, which is why we don't wanna make it so spoiler because we wanna kinda talk more thematically. Um, but this drama is played by 3 so I didn't look up anything going into it.
So I
And
didn't want you to. I was like, don't just don't
it's
look up anything."
so I don't think this is, like, a big, this isn't gonna, like, offset it, but I think what's funny is that I knew that Nana was in it, like the actress Nana from Into the Ring, who we really like. So at the beginning, I was like, I even told you, I was like, "Nana, like, they have made her unrecognizable." And you're like, "Nah," 'cause I
I
didn't
was
even
like
look to see that it was played by 3 different people. I was like, "I am s I guess, so confused." And you were like, "No, no, that's literally not her." And I was
it's
like,
not
"Oh,
her.
cool."
But I was also kind of like, Nana's fantastic and look, they can do crazy things with makeup. So like I don't blame you for
Yeah.
not knowing. Like
But when
really.
she shows up, it's like, "Okay, okay, here we go." But,
That's
like,
Nana.
it was just like because I was just I did not know that we were gonna have, because yeah, it's one character played by different people at different times in their life, and it makes sense. It's just like it was really funny going in being like, "Whoa, Nana, like, wild."
Gosh, you look really different. I know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, it's I love that she had 3 different actresses play her because it really was sort of like 3 different periods of her life because they were marked by significant changes. Um, and she had to adapt drastically between each time. So for some reason, the idea of giving her, like, essentially a different face, a different actress each time, like, worked for me.
Yeah, very
Um,
much so. It
yeah.
was a really good choice in my opinion, and then, just I think before we get into, like, the Mask Girl part, let's just frame how we ended up where we ended up with this.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
then Megan, like, what? It was, like, last weekend.
Last
You were
weekend
like, "I am watching" what?
I watched the Guillermo del Toro version of Frankenstein on Netflix, and I'm obsessed. Like, it's, like, probably unhealthy. My Instagram algorithm is just full of Frankenstein at this point. I don't care. I don't care what anyone says, even my best friend, because I made her watch it. And then I, like, reposted something on my stories about Frankenstein, and she's like, "Okay, honestly, you're obsessed. I am too, but you are obsessed." I was like, "I know." And I was like, "You," and I said, you if you have time this weekend, watch
Yeah,
Frankenstein.
in our group chat, you just were, like, very enthusiastic
It's a
about it,
movie. It's 2
and
hours,
yeah, and I was and what yeah, and once I found it was a movie, I was like, "Okay, I can knock it out."
doable.
And so, so that night I did, and I really enjoyed it. I again, this is like the people that came for me on K-pop Demon Hunter, I can't even. When I was like, "I like this," and I didn't, like, be make it my whole personality, and apparently, like, that, like, was upsetting to some people where I'm like, I don't know what the difference is between, like, saying, like, "I very much enjoyed it." Like, I am going to, like, unpack this and be a big fan, and, like, it did become Dora and Amy's life, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean that, like, I'm being, like, negative. So in this movie did not become my whole personality like it did yours, and yet that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it and find like, I have no like, I'm not coming at this with a critique, it's just, like, you found it in a way that, like, when you, like, I know the hyperfixation of what happens when you lock in on something, and
Yeah.
you've locked in.
I hyperfixated because I was just really riveted, and I have talked on this podcast before that I listened to Vulgar History, and I had literally just gotten done listening to a long series, that Vulgar History did, first on Mary Wollstonecraft and then her daughter, Mary Shelley. So I had just spent probably 4 to 5 hours of my life listening to these podcasts. And I was even like, "I'm gonna reread Frankenstein because 'cause it's been, like,
Mhm.
I don't even know. Okay. Like, since high school, probably. But before I could do that, the movie came out, and again, this is an adaptation. Some call it a reimagining. That's fine. I personally like to see different adaptations of a
I
story.
do, so that's where I think at first it took me out because I came to you and was like, "What about this, and what about this?" And then I had to be like, "You know what? Also, like, it's not a it's like you said, it's adaptations do some element of reimagining, and so I had to kinda, like, sit with that and kinda be, like, unjar and it wasn't even like it was jarring, I was just kind of like I was just being kinda like myself, being like, actually, this happened, and what about this, and at the end, this."
That's okay because I think it's really cool to I think I personally like comparing and contrasting this if now get me wrong, we've talked about source material before. I don't always love it, but when it comes to something like Frankenstein, again, it's written by a woman, it's famously, about patriarchy. Like, I do want to talk about the source material, but I also am like, I think that's fun to critique it. I think it's fun to see the different ways that we like, that's the thing, props to Mary Shelley that she inspired so many people taking her work and putting their spin on it in most of the way that's respectful. Like, to me, this felt, you
A
know,
teenage girl, by the way, a teenage girl.
she was a teenage girl, she was dealing with grief, she was dealing with abandonment from her father, um,
Her dead
and
baby, her
her
shitty ass husband.
yeah, a dead baby, a philandering husband, so yeah, you know, I
Yeah,
I just really
all
love it.
that to say though is, like, I kinda integrated it over the week, and now I feel like I'm, like, much more in a place where I see, like, again, we have the source material. The source material is something that, like, yeah, I think many people and also many women identified people like have it's like important to them for so many reasons. And then to see this reimagining of it, now I am like, okay, I've moved into a spot where I have like I enjoyed it at the time, but now I feel like I've like kind of like chilled out and I'm like, I really like it for what it is. It's not like move over Mary Shelley, like the new dogs in town. It's a different it's an homage and it's looking and you've got somebody who's making art grappling with questions they're interested in, using like the art as like the way to do that. And I'm gonna always appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think also, I've always liked Guillermo del Toro, and I like it when you reimagine it in a way that feels authentic to you, and he has talked about how he wanted this to be a little bit of like a telenovela type, and I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, like, good for like, that's cool, like, give me a different spin on it that's like you, not like I'm
Yeah.
trying to do what everyone else did." So I think
Exactly, that's
it's
what I thought was yeah, I feel like they had their own kind of way that they showed up to engage with it. Also, it's a man showing up to engage with it, and and I like it. I trusted him. I think he did a good job with it. Um, but that so all this to say, then what happened was that Megan on her journey, if I can dumb shit down, I'm gonna be the one that dumbs it down, but I start to be like we start being like, Jacob Elordi's fucking hot. Like the monster. Like, let's talk about why is Jacob Elordi hot as the like as the cobbling together of dead body parts to create the monster. Like, and then like, yeah, you did this like hear me out with like Jacob Elordi. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, well,
But
it's
then
really funny because my best friend's husband okay, so I've written alien romance, I've written monster romance, and so m m one of my greatest achievements in life, he's like an officer in, like, the Air Force. He is very, like, I don't know, by the book. So the fact that I introduced him to monster kink is one of my greatest life achievements ever. His reaction to it was one of my favorite things, and so she texted me and she was like, "He wants to know if you like this because of monster kink," which I was like, no, I like it because I love the themes. I'd like for real, but also
yes.
on my hear me out cake would absolutely be a picture of Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein. And I will be honest, I actually was like not into Jacob Elordi ever. I was like, I just was not like he didn't do it for me ever, ever. But
So
you
I
know
was
what?
really like kind of I don't think I'd ever even thought about Jacob Elordi until very recently because I've gotten really so I'm in like a Wuthering Heights area. I'm like working on a Wuthering Heights actually here is a newsworthy item. I am working on a book outline that is a very loose Wuthering Heights retelling right now that I haven't even
Nice.
to you about. But anyway,
Yeah.
and I've been enjoying watching kind of like the Margot Robbie like I've seen some people be like, "Oh, I don't like it." I like it. I like it. It looks fucking sexy and hot, and
It,
I'm fine with it right
you know what?
now.
It looks like an adaptation and a reimagining from someone's point of view. Cool.
It
Let's
and
see
let's
it.
just see how it goes. I
Yeah.
understand some of the quibbles, and I'm also fine to just enjoy what I enjoy. And so, um, anyway, so I've been thinking about him in terms of that more and being like, Jacob, like I was primed to already. I was primed to be like,
You
all
were
right,
lubed up and ready to go
all
to
right,
consider
sir.
him.
Chained to the base chained in the gothic basement. Yes, yes. So anyway, all that to say, you were like, "He's going on my hear me out cake." And all of a sudden I had this because we were working on, like, how we wanted to talk about Mask Girl. And I was like, "Well, hear me out yet again. What if we talk about Frankenstein with Mask Girl?" And we were both like, that could be good. And then it was like, but we maybe need to like sit on that like another day. And hence why now full circle back why we are recording a few days later because we had to kind of like digest into this. Without any further ado, again, this is not going to be a heavy spoiler episode as much as possible. If we are going to get into any spoilers, we'll signal it. But we really kind of just wanted to talk about these two shows and how obviously they're very different, but they also are to me, as soon as I saw one while I was thinking about the other, I was like, I can't separate them in my mind. I feel like there's a lot of relatable crossover here.
So, should we do like a summary of Mask Girl for
Yeah, I
now,
think
just so
let's
we're
start with
setting it up?
a summary of Mask Girl.
Okay.
If you need a summary of Frankenstein, like we're not gonna give you that, so like hit the Goog if you
Yeah.
don't know it. But like we
Not
are gonna
kidding.
talk about Mask Girl like in a framing, and then we're gonna jump into the conversation.
Yeah, Google Frankenstein. Okay, but we'll help you out with Mask Girl. So, as we said, Mask Girl came out in 2023, and it is available on Netflix like right now. I actually rewatched some of it, in order to prepare for this podcast because
So is Frankenstein.
yeah, Frankenstein is on Netflix too. Netflix has us all on a chokehold. But anyway, Mask Girl is often referred to as a black comedy crime thriller. Although I would say like the comedy is a dark sort of humor, but there is a humor to this. There is.
It's funny because it's not funny,
It's not
but I know what
funny.
they're like, because I would never say it's a black comedy, but yet there's something kind of like if you were gonna have, like, the crazy eye laugh of, like it's just, like, when something's, like, bad and you start laughing at, like, how bad it is, and not bad in, like, a way like it's not well executed, but, like, you're in a situation. Like, often when I look at the news, I will start laughing just through sheer incredulity of what's happening.
That's Mask Girl.
That's how I feel like Mask Girl feels funny, where
It's
I'm
like a
like, it's not
weird
yeah,
humor.
it's not having a comic moment, you're just kinda like, "Oh my god," and then, like, start laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like a brief summary. And Momi grew up with a dream of idol stardom, but she's been constantly told that she's ugly her whole life, even by her own mother. Now she's an adult and deeply insecure about her looks. So she's an ordinary office worker by day. I don't even know what office she works at. It doesn't matter. And at night, she is a cam girl, but she wears a mask to cover her face, both to hide her identity and to disguise like the face that's been a source of her ridicule because she dances, she sings on camera but covers her face. But when a coworker, Ju Oh Nam, discovers her double life as a mask girl, Momi's life takes a violent turn. She kills the coworker, and then she goes on the run and sets herself up as the target for Oh Nam's mother's revenge, which is a large portion of, I would say, like the back half of the drama. So, just a few facts about Mask Girl. It's based on a webtoon of the same name by Mei Mi. I have not been able to find out if Mei Mi, man, woman, or another gender. I have not been able to figure that out, and I'm very curious. Kim Mo-mi is played by 3 different actresses, as we mentioned. So the first woman who plays her is Lee Han-byul, and that's when she's Mask Girl. And then Nana plays her after she has drastic plastic surgery to hide her identity. And then Ko Hyung-jung plays her when she's a prisoner serving time for her crimes. So, okay, we're a little spoilery, but I think it still doesn't affect anything. But basically, Momi goes on a journey, guys, for real. So, this is actually kind of interesting. So Ko Hyun Jung once retired from acting when she married a Shinsuke heir. That was like very big news back when this happened.
Yeah, I have some things I need to speak on with this after you kinda, like, do your blurb
Okay.
on.
But since their divorce, she's now like returned to acting, and this was also like a big deal when I think, this was like a Mask Girl was kind of like one of her either her first or one of her very like one of the big returns. You know what I mean? And she really received critical acclaim for her role in Mask Girl. She was incredible. And then she also, I didn't even realize it was the same actress because in Mask Girl, she has like a really short haircut. Like it's really cropped close to her head. It's kind of like, I don't even know, but it's a really different haircut. But she also recently starred in Queen Mantis as the female serial killer. And I remember when I was watching Queen Mantis, like, I was like, "This actress is freaking incredible." That's who it was. And both the roles, she is not glamorous. She is not glamorous in Mask Girl, and she's absolutely not glamorous as Queen Mantis. She's a prisoner in Queen Mantis still.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say, so I had known about this actress before Mask Girl, just simply because I'd kind of been curious and, like, I didn't know any of her work or anything. I had just known a little bit about what had happened to her through her divorce. So
Right.
I'm just gonna pull this. I am not speculating. Don't sue me, big corporations. This is coming from Wikipedia, so I can have just, like, a blank slate here. But essentially at, like, you know, around 1995, she was, like, a big deal. Like, she was a big deal in acting, and she married, into, yeah, like, a department store conglomerate family, very K-drama. Like, like, when you look at, like,
Mhm.
Queen of Tears type shit, like, of, like, this like, when I went to these department stores in Korea, like, no joke, like, these are very nice, very high end, like, the fancy shit, like, the good shit. So anyway, they had, like, the it wedding. She retires from acting, like, she is going to, like, be in this world, like, this is her thing. So, they have a really messy divorce about 8 years later. Um, no custody, mother loses custody of the kids, and then not only that, what like really because of if you think about like what happens when you're an actress a lot of the time is like how you're supplementing, as we know in Korea a lot, is like you're doing a lot of brand endorsements. You're doing a lot of like now you're gonna be selling like xylitol chewing gum or a face mask pack or like
Mhm.
this is how you make your nut, like I
Mhm.
get it. So essentially this very, very, very powerful consumer conglomerate made it that if she endorsed a brand, they wouldn't carry that brand. So, I mean, they really like the messy was messy.
Yeah, they screwed her. Yeah.
And then she was not in stuff for a lot. So I feel like again, I just am like, I'm gonna be because when I think about like I'm not involved in their marriage. I don't need to be, but I can say that like that marriage definitely like I saw a woman come out on the because I just remember being kinda like, "Holy shit," like, they even made it so, like, if she endorsed something, they weren't gonna like, nope, like, you really came and were, like,
Yeah.
into this person. And then to, like, watch them in a movie like this, I was like, "That's fucking fascinating."
Yeah, she was great. She was great in Mask Girl, and she was so good as Queen Mantis. If you have a chance to watch Queen Mantis, I highly recommend it. It was
Seems
very
like
good.
it seems like
And
it fits my current interest
yeah,
levels.
Queen Mantis was there's no romance.
Mm,
Where there's no like developing romance. I mean, there is kind of like the lead cop, he's like married and like he's very in love with his wife and like wants to protect her. So that's kind of like a through line, but there's no romance. But it was really good. But anyway, so good for her because she's incredible.
I feel good for like, that's somebody who I just genuinely feel like good for her.
Yeah, yeah. I wish her the best. And I'm again, Queen Mantis, watching her in that role, the way she played, you're not meant to like her, but you also like her, and the way she played like a nuance of this character was very good. Anyway, Mask Girl is also the first acting role for Lee Han Byul, who won the role after an audition with 1,000 other actresses. So she's the one again who's the beginning, who's kind of meant to be quote ugly. She's not, but I think they exaggerate some of her features to to not fit the Korean beauty standards. And then Ju-Oh Nam is played by our favorite older brother in Reply 1988, An Jae-hong. And his obsessive mother is played by Yum Hae-ran, who does an incredible the mother is out of this world good.
So good.
She is so good. And just overall the acting, everyone put their whole their whole being into these roles, like, truly. They were
They
like, "We're
did.
just gonna go whole hog," and you kind of had to with Mask Girl because it was just so intense. Um,
And I mean, yeah, it's just one thing I wanna say before we move on to the next bit is, just loosely speaking, you kept talking about, like, An Jae-hyung as being like you were just like, "Oh my gosh," like, I think how you talked so you weren't wrong, but it's funny how, like, you can say something and then somebody else gets a very different idea in their head. So after I saw it, I understood what you were saying, but what I was thinking by what you were saying was very different. Because I think I thought that they were gonna be much more of like an evil overlord mastermind for like kind of like how it was discussed. Like, and it wasn't that you did anything wrong. It's just like, I could say the sky is blue and you're gonna maybe picture turquoise and I mean navy or something. That's kind of
yeah,
like what I
yeah,
mean. And so
yeah,
you were kind of like talking about like, oh, this or this. And so I got into my mind like what this character was,
yeah,
and then when it started, I kept waiting for my bias to be confirmed. Like, I kept waiting for, like, something to like, a curtain to pull back and be like, "Oh my gosh, they're really, like, the leader of a mafia gang or something," like, at first,
yeah,
and then I was like it took me, like, it didn't take me long, but it took me, like, a minute to be like, "Oh, no." This was one of those things where, like, I heard something, created a whole reality in my head of what this was. Are they a good person? No. But are they a bad person in the way I was presenting? No. They are I would say almost like a tragically bad person.
yeah, it was a complicated character, and I will say this, I misremembered also. So there is I'm just gonna give a little bit of, like, an idea of what happens, not super spoilery. Um, so Uja Nam is or Ju Nam is obsessed with her, but she has several other people that are obsessed with her as Mask Girl.
As
And
obsessed with her alter ego, this
correct.
next level identity. Yeah, that
They're
like
obs
it's not like an OnlyFans type thing.
right, and so she does meet up with a fan, and that fan is not a good person at all. And in my memory, I put him with I forgot he existed. So in my
Mm,
memory, he was Onam, and so he was a little bit more, like, violent. He was more evil because I kind of misremembered. But so when in reality, I would say, yeah, the Juo Nam character is more complicated than that. I agree that he's tragically bad. He's tragically bad.
so yeah, there's a statistic that I can't believe is real. It is presented with a level of realness though, and, like, when I look it up, like, I mean, it seems real enough to talk about here, and so and I think it'll come up later in the podcast too, but I just wanna throw it out here at this point if that's okay, because
Mhm.
you knew it too.
Mhm.
So, in summing up, if I was to say to somebody who hasn't so if you've already seen it, it's an interesting fact to sit with, and if you haven't seen it, I think it really sums up, like, this kind of a character, is that, there is data there's a stat that says that for Gen Z, 45% of men 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in person, and that feels very shocking to
Yeah.
me.
Yep.
And what that can mean in terms of where we see these gaps getting filled. And I mean, I'm not trying to be like a tech alarmist who's like, "Oh my gosh, the first whiff of technology, I'm running for the hills crying. We should all be Luddites," you know?
Yeah.
My husband's been like in this thing of like protecting his dopamine lately where I was like, "Bro, if you get red pilled, like no, like I will not let you get red pilled." But he started to be like, I don't use my phone so much because of whatever. And I'm like, I get it. I get all the things. I know I'm not supposed to use my phone before bed. Fuck it. I do. Like I do. But I also know that there is this thing with like AI companionship moving forward. And like, how can we kind of create worlds that can like cater to these like ideal, what are we doing? What are we making? What kind of like, how is this feel kind of sinister and monstrous? And the people who are setting out into those engagements aren't setting out to be monstrous. They're setting out because they're lonely, and these are being designed like, I feel like there's a lot of things happening in society right now to take young men and I mean, this is my, like these are I don't even think this is, like, a conspiracy theory. This is just what's happening, and, like, bring them into spaces like 4chan or bring them into spaces where they're gonna engage with, like, AI, like, sex bots,
Mhm.
and so I would say that I'm not gonna go on a soapbox about that at the moment, but what I'm gonna say is, like, what I'm trying to allude to is that that character, that male protagonist not even protagonist, that male villain, I guess,
Yeah.
is kind of in that space
Yeah,
of
he has yeah, and they even refer he has like he has a blow up doll that he like it's in his bed, like his mom finds it in his bed. He talks to it, he like eats dinner with it, stuff like that.
yeah, and so
And he mentions how he doesn't approach women. He talks about that actually, because you get an episode that's like from his point of view.
yes, and so, again, like, kind of how and I think it's good in the sense that, like, you're not absolving the behaviors that are happening, but I do think that it is helpful sometime to understand, like, how are we at this point? Like, how are we at this point where we have somebody is putting, like, a literal mask over their fucking face? And because she had what would be considered to be, like, an ideal body type. Not an ideal face, but an ideal body type.
Mhm.
And that's also interesting to parse those things out too.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because she's got some currency to the fucked up market,
Yeah.
but she doesn't have full currency. So she has to like, yeah, like how can she cater to like the parts of her that are going to fit in? So all of that to be said is like, yeah. So now let's move to Frankenstein and then we'll talk about our conversation.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna go to the second question that I had on like the script, FYI, because it seems a little bit more like in line to talk about it in relation to Mask Girl. Um,
Okay, let's do that, then go back because I do like the first one
oh,
too.
yeah, well, that's the first one, but I kind of want to talk about this one. So in Frankenstein, there's a lot of symbolism in the movie. If you go down I've been going down a Frankenstein rabbit hole again about the movie. Um, the last few days, and there's just so much symbolism that I kind of feel like I'm constantly learning about all the little ways Guillermo del Toro like snuck stuff in to get his point across and to kind of like give you the themes without hitting you over the head with them. And in Frankenstein, there a statue of Medusa is shown, which I have to be honest, I didn't even realize when I was watching that it was Medusa. I saw a screen grab later, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's the head with the snakes. How did I not notice?" So yes, while she it was so Medusa. So yes, she had a head of snakes. She could turn men into stone, but she was made that way by quote, the gods, the Greek gods, because she was raped. Like that was literally she was Athena, Poseidon raped her, and Athena was mad about it and turned her into well, they were gorgons, right? Isn't that what Medusa was? She was a gorgon. And so I think that also ties into the theme of Frankenstein's again. Obviously, the big theme is like who are the real monsters. That's a very common theme, but it is interesting because that comes up in that's very much kind of like Mask Girl, in that you have her punished. You have essentially, I mean, is Mask Girl a perfect character? No, she's flawed. She makes mistakes. I wouldn't say she is completely good. But she is also shaped by circumstances that are placed upon her, by the patriarchy, by the beauty standards. She's not found worthy in the eyes of men, and her life has been shaped by that. But then men still find a way to exploit her in ways that for other things. So, like you had said, they find her body desirable, so they're going to take advantage of that. And I guess, um, yeah, those are like that was just a parallel that I saw in Frankenstein and Mask Girl that I was like, again, that's we're made. We're shaped by um whatever it is, beauty standards or um what's been done to us.
Yeah, I think if I can jump in, it's essentially
Yeah,
just how
please.
do patriarchal structures create monsters. So, they victimize, they punish the victim for being victimized, and then they use that transformation as proof that whoever that they deserved the bad thing all along. And so, like, let's look at I'm just gonna lay out Medusa really quickly. So, first of all, Medusa's just beautiful. So she's considered to be, like, acceptable, and the male gaze values her. Because of that beauty, male violence is then enacted upon her, she's raped. But then Athena punishes her for defiling the temple. So
Yeah.
there's like this like the system protects the powerful. So in this case, like Poseidon's not punished for being the rapist because he's a god too. He's powerful. Athena punishes the weaker person because like she's part of that system. Like the gods are the system. So then Medusa becomes a monster who turns men into stone. Like her trauma is weaponized.
Hmm.
And then in the end, she gets killed by another man who uses his head as a weapon. So, like, even in death, she's still like a tool. Like, even her dead body is like a tool.
Yeah, he uses her head then as a weapon on other people. Is that what you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
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 Um, and so then, like, if we look at like Momi's journey, so she's ugly by conventional standards. So she's unacceptable and invisible. But she's like seeking validation through online streaming and using like the parts of her that are acceptable to the male gaze to like adapt to like getting male gaze attention. But then she's like exploited, stalked, objectified. So there's like male violence being enacted on her. She commits violence in response because her trauma is also weaponized, but then she's condemned as a monster because the system is still going to protect itself. And so I think like, that story of Medusa and the story of Mask Girl is kind of like how can monstrosity quote unquote become like manufactured, and then the real monsters like the Poseidon who's the rapist, the men who are exploiting Momi online or attacking her body in person, or when we come to Frankenstein, like we have Victor Frankenstein, who creates but then abandons life. Like they are all like maintaining some sense of like they're presented as like complex and troubled and tragic, but they're never seen as like monsters, but then their victims become the cautionary tales.
Yeah, and I found a really interesting take to kind of like also relate all this to Frankenstein as well. I found an interesting take about the movie's reimagining of how Victor reacts to the monster, because in the book Victor reacts to the monster immediately in disgust because the monster is so ugly. So the monster is grotesque, which if that's not an allegory to like beauty standards. So immediately sees him as just like ugly, not worth anything. Whereas in the movie, I like Guillermo del Toro's interpretation of this because I think it slightly modernizes it in a way. And or I guess I wouldn't say modernizes it, but um makes it um makes another version of it because in the movie Victor Frankenstein isn't immediately repulsed by the creature's looks, okay? He is repulsed when he thinks the creature is worthless. So when he thinks the creature is dumb and when he thinks the creature is essentially weak. Which I think is I mean, that's also, a part of patriarchy. Men are constantly jockeying for, power and, they're constantly rooting out who they see as weak, who they see as not smart, who they can't use, and I think that's another thing. Victor was like, "I can't use you. I made you, but I can't use you, and if I can't use you, I'm just gonna chain you in a basement." And so I thought that that was an interesting so the original text, I think, is great because I think that that says something about that Victor was just immediately repulsed because, um, the creature was ugly, but then I also think the, like, new version of what, was done in this movie has value as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like, we're, like, kind of, like, the ultimate like, sinister trick that happens in Frankenstein, Medusa, and, like, Mask Girl is the idea that, like, the stories create conditions for, like, monstrosity to happen, like somebody becoming a murderer or a
Mhm.
murderer of men or, or becoming like like they're a monster. But then so you've got the conditions for monstrosity, but then you use those monsters as proof that, like, the system protecting us from them is necessary. And I think that's interesting, and I would say that that's more kind of a little bit to, like, the actual and so sometimes I'm gonna, like, blur the lines between where the adaptation of Frankenstein and, like, the actual source material of Frankenstein, like, I think that some of that comes through a little more in, like, the Mary Shelley version because, again, the adaptation is, like, taking it in a little bit of a different angle, but, but at the end of the day, I think, like, there's a pretty clear idea that, like, it's not the whole point of Frankenstein is, like, who's the monster's the human.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that that is the point of Mary Shelley, and obviously but that was unique when Mary Shelley wrote it. I mean, now it seems as like, "Oh, we've done that a lot of times." Yeah, we did it, but, like, Mary Shelley did we've done that because of Mary Shelley, so thank you, Mary Shelley. Um,
Yeah, and the true horror really of like the retelling, I think, of, Frankenstein is not, again, like, the creature's appearance, but it's more the fact that, like, Victor's unable to love what he made. Because, like, really, that's the thing is, like, that he took something, had an idea of what it would be, and, like, the thing is, like, what's ultimately, like, the tragic flaw there too is that, like, the monster is all those things and more. It was just like,
mhm.
"Give it a second to breathe, bro. Like, give it a
Yeah,
minute. Just give it a second."
it's a baby, give it
Yeah,
a
he's a baby. Like, I'm sorry he, like, didn't jump in and be like, "Well, actually, I'm ready to sit down and be your new best friend." Like, he had to,
yeah.
like, cook a second.
Yeah, like, you couldn't discuss
Immediately
philosophy at, like, age 1, give him a
yes,
break. It
immediately
took
he's like
you 18 years, Victor.
yeah. So Victor was just like, "It's broken. I don't like it. You're chained to the basement." And then, like, in the end, it's like a very well articulated, like, full bodied, like, deep thinking creation, which is the tragic irony is like, like, he just looked at it, like, 1 second of it and was just like, "Nope, not I didn't like, not good enough."
Well, and even, like, I think similar to there are, like, men in Momi's life who wanted her to, like, be something. Like, the men were like, "You're going to be my doll. Like, you are online as Mask Girl. I don't know how to approach women, so can't you just, like, be my doll?" And
Mhm.
Momi's like, "No, because that's not who I am." And, I think the creature is, like, similar. Like, he's like, "You created me, let me, like, be who I am." And he even says something like that in the movie, I think, where he says, he's like, "I'm grotesque to you, or I'm like a creature to you, or whatever, but to me, like, I'm just me." You know? Like, "I'm sorry I can't be exactly like" well, he didn't say sorry, but he couldn't be exactly what he wanted, and this actually leads me to another point because I thought that this was This was also again, I'm like taking I've read a lot of critiques and stuff about Frankenstein because I really wanted to be like, why did this when I like something, then I want to go read about it to see why it resonated with me and to see if other people it resonated with other people similarly. So, we often talk about like the bad boy trope, the I can fix him trope, or like the wounded hero with a traumatic past or a poor little rich boy. And I would say I'm not saying that the creature in Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is exactly that, but it's a version of it, I think. And I found a comment online that resonated with me a lot because I was like, why am I feeling like this kinship to the creature? And that's the thing. That's what my friend was like, is this a monster kink? And I'm like, no, not really. So I found this comment online that resonated with me and it said, what if like we as women or if you're like another type of like marginalized
Identity.
identity, thank you. What if like we recognize the otherness that we see in a character like the creature and we identify with that? And I think for me that like makes sense. Like you kind of identify with this like outsider otherness type of character and that's what the creature I think maybe that's because I wasn't like I want to bone the creature. I mean, hear me out. Yes, I have a hear me out cake, but like I when I'm watching it, I'm more like I've seen a lot of things where like women are like we just want to like hold leaves with him and like hang out. It's like, yeah, because we like want to be friends with the creature.
Yeah. Like, what you're saying is that this isn't a monster kink, it's essentially, like, kind of just, like, the, like, relief that happens when you see, like, your own otherness, like, reflected,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
And then, like, in choosing the monster here, like, be it, like, a mommy or, like, the creature is, like, arguably more, like, sympathetic, like, especially in the movie, I'd say more sympathetic than, like, how he's written, and I'm not trying to, like, put them at, like, a moral the monster Frankenstein's monster, like, a moral superiority, but there is a little bit of differences that happens,
mhm,
but I would say that, like, ultimately, in choosing to put our sympathies with, like, the made monster, it's it's about more, like, rejecting the framework that, like, created the monster in the first place.
yeah, and I would say with Momi too, it's interesting because by the end, I think again, Momi, she's not the creature. Like we're not saying that, but we are saying that there are like similar circumstances that like made them who they are. And I think Mask Girl, Momi's journey is interesting because by the end, I do think she realizes that. And I don't think she's not necessarily she doesn't take on like a victimhood by the end, but I definitely think she takes on like God, these were shitty circumstances, and I also, like, let these shitty circumstances, um, control me, whether, like, her choice or not. Like, she did make some bad choices, but I do think by the 3rd act, when she's, like, in prison, like, you feel that with her.
Yeah, and I think that just, like, there's a natural sympathy, though, that, like, the monster doesn't, like, start as the monster, like, they can like, they become a monster, quote, unquote, through kind of, like, rejection and being told that, like, their existence is, like, just, like, fundamentally, like, wrong or unwanted in some way,
And
just
that
not
is
deserved.
100% Momi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that is so Momi, like, the thing about what's interesting at the beginning of Mask Girl is they just show her all she wants to do is sing and dance on stage, and she's this cute little girl, and that's all she wants to do, and then she's completely beaten down, beaten down, beaten down until she's an adult that's, like, pretty fucked up in the head, um, but yet she still has this, like, I think, innate goodness in her, um, but it just is continually, kind of beaten out of her.
So, yeah, then kinda, like, moving to the next question, because something that is interesting in Frankenstein, and they do touch on this a bit, is, like, there's, like, something very, like, toxic masculinity, like, meets hubris in his attempt to, like, create life without women.
Yeah, yeah,
And then we have, like, Momi's transformation is driven by male-defined beauty standards.
mhm.
So, I was kind of interested to, like, explore, like, what does each suggest about, men's desires to control.
Yeah, I it's funny because I didn't even, like, think of that like, I didn't even I think there's just so many themes of Frankenstein, really, again, Mary Shelley, like, she was going through a lot at the time, and that's part of, I think, why she was able to, like, nail so many of these themes. But I didn't even think about that, the fact that he was trying to create life, without a woman, and try to shape what he thought, life would be. And then again, Momi, like, as you said, she's shaped again by, like, men who want her life and want her, um, to be a certain way. When if we just would have let the creature and Momi live, they would have been fine. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that, like, well, here's a parallel. We have Victor, like, an interesting parallel, I guess, is, we have Victor building a body from corpses to satisfy his vision. And then we have Momi rebuilding her living body from surgical interventions to satisfy
My
society's.
gosh, you're right. Oh my god, look at that. Look at
And
these
so,
parallels.
like, there's both, like, a kind of death, like, the creature is
Yeah.
actually made of death, and Momi's like, heal and I mean, I'm not trying to make this, like, to like, I guess what I'm trying to be careful of in this is that, like, I'm not coming at this as, like, anti-plastic surgery. Like, I
Right,
am
no.
fine with plastic surgery in many aspects, but for these purposes of how it's framed in this story,
Mhm.
like, Momi, like, because it's not only like, she's not having plastic surgery, like, I'm gonna, like, lift this eye like, and again, I mean, like, I don't know, I feel fine, like, fine, I guess I'm bringing some judgment to the space too, but, like, I think what I'm trying to say is, like, she's not augmenting something or, like, like, she does kinda like a face-off plastic, like, she's a new actress, like, a new
She has
person has to play her.
a new face, and she has a new face, partly because, she killed someone and she needs to change her face, and but also partly because she wants to fit male beauty standards.
Yes, and so there's a like a crime necessity for it, but it's also like now I can be the face I, like, couldn't be like, when I was just me, and so there is a death to, like, herself to some degree because she's had to kill off her old face to become beautiful, and it's not that she's enhancing her face, she is a new face. And so, yeah, I think that, like, it's beyond modification even, it's, like, complete replacement because, like, Victor's not, like, changing a woman's role in creation, like, he's just eliminating it altogether. And then in, like, the case of, like, where, like, Momi has to go to, like, become kind of, like, conventionally beautiful, she's not, like, enhancing any natural appearance, like, it's replacing it completely. And so yeah, I think that that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. No, I didn't even think about all that, but you're right.
Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein in the context of, like, her deeply patriarchal society. And Mask Girl is exploring similar structures through the lens of living in contemporary South Korea. So, how do both works depict women's limited options for agencies within those systems?
Well, I do think one thing is interesting that, of course, I learned from the Belgian History podcast, is that so her mother and her father were, you know, philosophers, they championed human rights, and, her father had always kind of championed, like, free love, like, famously, her mother and father really only married, in order to fit standards, and to fit society, like, standards so she wasn't born out of wedlock. That's really the only reason, they married. Um, and, yeah, her father practiced, like, free love, and that's what he wrote about. And so that's how she, like, grew up, that's how she was, like, raised into to believing that, and, raised on, like, her mother's teachings, her father's teachings. So then when Mary essentially did practice that, she was like, "I'm gonna, go off with this married man." Percy Shelley. Her father was like, "No, it's okay for everyone but you," and cut her off, abandon her, you know. And so she's also writing, Frankenstein in that context of, like, again, you created me and then you abandoned me. And yeah, her options were, despite her kind of, like, champion, like, she wanted, like, free love, or well, she thought she did. I mean, it's funny because she, like, kind of pretended to, but in a way she really just loved Percy Shelley and just wanted to live with Percy Shelley for the rest of her life. But despite what she was kind of also taught, that wasn't the society she was born into. Like, she found herself constantly being judged for her choices. So no matter how much she tried to, like, buck up against that because she thought she could, she was, like, met with, like, a brick wall. And I would say, like, I mean, Momi is very similar in that she, um, is like, "If I was just beautiful, I would be okay. If I just had this, like, one thing, I'll be fine." And that wasn't really true. She encounters, like, domestic violence of her friend. I mean, she comes up constantly, against, the rigid structure of South Korea, and is it just fixing her face doesn't help her.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, Mask Girl shows, like, how little things have changed despite, like, surface progressions for
Yeah,
women. But, like, Momi has options,
yeah,
like, more than, like, Elizabeth, the character in Frankenstein, might have had on paper. Like, she can work, she can live alone, she can have a job, she can broadcast online, but they're all operating within, like, patriarchal parameters. So, for example, like, she's got, like, options. So, she can exist as, like, professionally competent in her role, but she's, like, romantically worthless. So she can be invisible, but then she can gain attention, but only through, like, literal self erasure because she has to be masked.
yeah,
So then she can transform, but then that's achieving beauty through violence to her own body. And then, she can express rage at all of that, um, by becoming society's monster, essentially becoming criminal. So
yeah,
these aren't, like, really choices at all, they're just, like, variations of, like, complying or, like, pushing against and then being punished.
yeah, yeah,
And so you're
yeah,
just, like, choosing, like, and then in, like, in Elizabeth and Frankenstein, like, she's kind of just, like, waiting to be, like, married or murdered.
yeah. Ugh. Elizabeth in the movie is played by Mia Goth, and it is interesting because Mia also plays Victor's mother. And I love that that's a choice. Like, that is a choice, that was made by the director.
Yeah, they did more mommy issues, I feel like, with the director. I don't think the book has as much, to me, from my memory, the book doesn't have quite so many, like, mommy issues underpinning it.
I don't think so either, but there's tons of mommy issues in the movie, and you know what? I don't hate it. I really didn't. I don't hate it
Yeah, I don't mind it, but I
because it
think
was a
that, like,
reflection of Victor,
but then
not his
also
mom.
here's another thing I wanna talk about is,
Yeah.
like, look, like, blah, 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 I can't talk. Like, let's look at, like, 1818 or whenever this was written, like, the early 19th century to, like, Momi, like, now, and, like, came out in 2023, but let's say, like, now-ish. Like, for Mary Shelley could, produce creative content, but it had to be anonymous. Like, she couldn't put her name to it because she was a woman, so she could have
Mhm.
success, but it had to be anonymous.
Mhm.
And then we have Momi's able to have success becoming, like, an internet star, but she has to be anonymous as well. And I think that's also interesting. Like, you have to hide who you actually are to then be, like, celebrated.
Mhm. Mhm. And in a way, Momi still couldn't be. I mean, when Momi was a kid, her dream wasn't to, like, be a cam girl.
No, this was
And
her only way, like,
yeah.
this was her way to have, because she's a good like, she has a lot of, like, she's charming and, like, does eggyo, like, she does all the cute things, she's just not cute traditionally, she's just not cute.
Mhm. Yeah, and so so it's another thing. She's doing what she wants, but she has to do it within the structure of what the patriarchy finds attractive. So this is the only way she can do what she does, but it's not like the way she wants to. She wants to be an idol. That's basically what she wanted to do when
Yeah,
she was a
and
kid.
instead she's, like, bot getting, like, grifting off the bottom feeders who have, like, the inability, are in the 45% of men who can't approach women and are just, like, using her as, like, an objective tool for their
Yeah,
own
and have,
pleasure.
like, analyzed her boobs.
And then either, like, using her to mock and be like, "We got, like, I found out who she was, and now I'm gonna, like, fuck the real ugly version and talk about how gross she is," or they're gonna be like, "Only I love you, but, like, it's because I'm, like, already so broken, and I see that, like, you're already very low socially, and maybe I get a chance with you too."
Yeah. Yeah. Neither way was, like, wholesome or
No.
or correct, or it was fucked up no matter what.
So, I don't know, I think this was very much like Megan and Leah go to English class, and I like it, like, I think it's fun to look at works based on other works, that, like, are trying to be like, Mask Girl wasn't made I mean, Mask Girl could have been made with some Frankenstein elements involved, but, I don't think that, Frankenstein certainly wasn't looking at Mask Girl, but I think that, it's fun to me to, like, look at different stories and then pull out comparisons on, like, why we found them compelling at this moment in time.
No, that was really fun. I really, really enjoyed that discussion. I feel like I learned a lot too. I love analyzing works like that. Again, like I said, if I like something, I want to know why. I want to like read critiques on it, whether they're good or bad. I want to read critiques because I've read some critical stuff on people who didn't like, or I would say didn't love the adaptation or had some critiques on it. And that's interesting to me too. I, I want to hear like what you found was maybe like lacking. Like that's okay too. Um, but then analyzing these 2 together, I never thought we would be able to, like, discuss these 2 together, but that was actually a really fun exercise. We
I'm
should
glad we
probably
decided to hear me out. I would do this again for other content
yeah, I'm
too.
like, we should do this more often. What can we compare to Chief of War?
Challenge fucking accepted.
Challenge accepted. Let's discuss some drama along with Chief of War. We'll figure it out.
Okay,
We'll figure
because
it
yeah,
out.
Megan and I both I am so like, that was, like, my Frankenstein where I was just like, "I am obsessed with this and need to talk about it with someone," and the fact you, like, bit and, like, jumped into it was, like, s so mentally relieving. That's why I do apologize sometimes when somebody's like, "Please watch this drama," and we don't, like, get to that drama or we don't talk about, because I understand what it
I
feels
get
like to
it.
be like, "I wanna talk about this," and
I
then,
get it.
like yeah.
I do. Chief of War, though, was cool as shit, and I watched it with, again, I never watch shows with my husband anymore, so the fact that we both sat down and got to watch it together, it was really fun, and I just found it to be absolutely stellar, so I hope they do a season 2.
So for the
Right.
uninitiated, Chief of War is a Jason Momoa driven project. He is the director on the project, the showrunner for the project, and it is set. It tells the story of Kayana, who is a Maui-born.
Warrior?
Yeah,
Hawaiian
yeah, I
warrior?
was like real good war maker.
Well, he's not not Hawaiian, I'm sorry, because he's from Maui, but
Yeah.
the
But, like, yeah, and then his eventual so he's a historical character. There is some, like, reimagining to his story, but there's a lot of historical it's pretty true to life. And then his involvement, with joining forces with, King Kamehameha, who, became the first kind of, like, king of what is mostly the unified islands of Hawaii. Kauai never actually, like, ceded power, but kind of tells the story at that time, which is an interesting because that's, like, right when, like, white colonialism was beginning to, like, tap at the island. What happens when you introduce, like, more modern quote unquote warfare, like having guns involved, things like that. So a really compelling drama series, and I'm sure we can find something to talk about with that. So I
yeah,
love
the history of it was basically a history that I had never I love history, love it, love it, love it, and I had never seen history like that portrayed of the Hawaiian Islands, of the history of the Hawaiian Islands. I have never seen that. It was so freaking cool to me. Props to Jason Momoa because I thought that was just such a cool project. And just adored it. Just, like every white man but one is just dirty and smell like they look like they smell
historically accurate.
historically accurate. Um, I love
Eating
actually
whole pork, their teeth were falling out, and then they show up on this island and people have just been eating, like, going keto hard.
yeah, keto hard.
But
Yeah.
what's also funny is, like, so I lived in Hawaii for, almost 6 years, and so I did know a lot of the historical parts to the story, but what really struck me in it was I've seen so many artifacts and things. Like, I've seen, like, clubs, I've seen, like, the
Mm,
instruments of, like, war and battle.
mhm.
But I think I'd, like, explain, like, I'd never really, like, considered how they were used. So I'd, like, see a
Right.
club and be like, I guess you just, like, bonk and I mean, I'm not saying just bonk, but, like, I just hadn't really thought about, like, how would you use those things
Like the
dynamic.
actual violence of it.
Yeah, and so this is not a show for people who are not okay with violence,
It's not
but
an Amy show.
no, but to me, I thought the violence is essential to the storytelling and fascinating to watch, like, the way you can use tools to hurt bodies was actually, like, to me, fascinating of, like I'm like, "There's a lot of skill here."
Yeah, and I think it was a violent time. Like, I think there were warrior tribes. They had chiefs of war. That's like
They
what
had the god of war.
they had war departments, guys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, so they had chiefs of war. So this was a violent time. So I mean, the history is violent. It is what it is. But they would like make these Their big thing was like teeth, and they would
Shark
take
serrated shark teeth
yeah, and they would
and human teeth.
and human teeth, and they would put it in their, like, clubs. I mean, if you think about, like, the damage that's gonna do to you if it hits you, I mean, it's just crazy. So here's the deal, watch Chief of War, it's on Apple TV, but most of all, please watch Frankenstein. Even if you don't like it, I I don't think you'll dislike it. I just
There's gonna be something for you to like and to ponder, and if you watch Chief of War and wanna recommend a drama to match, I'm open
yeah,
to considerations.
I
And
am
then
totally
yeah,
down.
go and then Mask Girl though, like, Mask Girl for me really was just, like, such a I mean, it's weird to call it a delight because it's just fucked up and it's a bummer, but,
It's very
like,
f yeah.
it's very good, and, like, I'm looking for and so I'm also just in through that lens, like, I'm looking for more like that too because and I would love to see more like that where I do want to be sitting in discomfort, and I do want to be, like, reflecting on my world, and, again, this isn't me being like, "No, no to plastic surgery, blah, blah, blah," like, girl, I love some Botox, like, I want more right now, like, right now my forehead's I don't want it, I love that shit, like, I love it, but this is also, like, was talking about it through, like, a lens of, like, where there are problems and, like, when the gaze becomes it's not for you. It's like actually here, I'm gonna close out with this as an interesting story. My daughter wears a lot of makeup right now. So she does like a full face every single morning and she's putting on a lot. It doesn't look bad.
Hmm,
It looks
she looks
good,
great.
but she's putting a lot of makeup on. Like she's not doing like a little bit. She's putting on a lot. And I don't mind that, but I've tried to talk to her about the fact that like where my problem I because I do have a problem in this. And the problem isn't makeup. The problem is that the concern that I've pointed out is that she doesn't feel like she can go out comfortably without makeup, and she doesn't feel like she can, like, be seen by, like, her boyfriend without makeup, and that's what so I've been trying to talk to her about the fact that, like, I don't mind you playing with your appearance. I don't mind you playing with your hair. I don't mind you wearing makeup. I don't mind, like, your clothing choices. But, like, that should be because, like, you're kind of in control of that experience, and it's kind of like your self-expression, and you're using it as a tool. But when it becomes the thing where it's, like, wearing you,
Mhm,
that's where I'm trying to throw out my cautionary tale is, like,
mhm.
think about it in terms of the fact that, like, it's now becoming, like yeah, it's becoming it's making you less than in a way that, like, isn't okay, and now, like, what and then, like, yeah, who's that gay and then it's like you're playing into the clutches of what this problem is when it comes to, like, the patriarchal gaze and things like that, because 'cause you're totally enough without it.
It's a
And
very, very good, I think, nuanced conversation because I am of like I love when I think it's really cool when people play with makeup. I think it's really artistic, but I do think you're right. There's like a line there where what's the intention? And also, um, does it come from like an insecurity that needs to be dealt with as well? You know what I mean? Or at least
I dye
talked
my hair,
about.
like, right now you can see I've got, like, grays in my roots because I, like, need to dye my hair and I've been, like, lazy. So I'll dye my hair, but then again, if I see somebody with, like, gray hair, I'm not like, ugh, gross. And it's also not like I'm trying to be like, "Oh my gosh," I'm, like, fighting, like, the signs of aging or something. I like my right now, I like my hair more of, like, this color than, like, what it feels like when I just like how I look better, and not a term of it being youthful or not. I just feel like with my skin tone and I'm not trying to justify whatever, like, I feel fine with myself. I also have been, like, in a bigger body. I've been like, right now, like, my body's not as big. I liked myself in both embodiments. So it is really interesting to, like, live these things too and feel like how because and that so that's why I like Mask Girl because I can sit and look at what's happening on that and then kind of try to reflect those things for myself, and that becomes really interesting too, and I have seen, like, a lot of that too, and I'm not gonna, like I mean, I don't wanna talk for another 25 minutes either, but yeah, when we talk about things like weight, for example, and what like, people being like, "What does this mean for body positivity now that, like, people, like, are, able to get, like, medical support to, like, change what their body looks like? And does that mean that they talked about body positivity, but then they never really believed it and things like that? And I'm like, I think that is like oversimplifying things to such a degree that I think, again, very worthy topics. I don't want to keep it. I mean, we could do a 2-hour long podcast, but nobody wants that. But I think that like there are so many just different things that like that's what makes TV so good sometimes, is when it makes you then go away and kind of like think about yourself or the world around you and the choices that you're making, and
Yes.
puts
Yes.
up that sign of like you feel like you're not alone all of a sudden.
I would say as crazy as Mask Girl was, it stuck with me because we've talked actually I brought it up several times recently in the last year in talking about, and I was like, wow, this has really stuck with me. The themes have stuck with me. The thought process of like even just discussing like is Momi a sympathetic character or not? Because some people are going to be like, no, I didn't like her. So even like just discussing that, and also
Yes, I
think
found
about
her incredibly sympathetic from jump.
yeah, I did too, but I have seen discourse on that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
then yeah, and then same with Frankenstein. I mean, I finished watching it. I immediately was like, sat with myself. And I was like, I want to like think about what I liked about this. And I also want to think about um how it relates back to the original text and how I mean, and that's very fun for me. I hope people like that too, because that's basically what we're trying to do with this podcast episode and well, what we kind of always try to do. But yeah, I just if you ever have weird mashups, throw them at us.
Yeah,
And
I wanna
we
play with more mashups. I think we did this with
yeah,
Ted
this was
Lasso at some point.
my god, we totally should. Totally should.
No,
I
we
mean, a
did
movie's
I
easier,
think we
I
did it with
think.
Ted Lasso when you didn't watch it yet.
Oh, that's it. You did it when and now I watched it and freaking loved it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
we
right.
jumped the
Okay.
gun, but there's other things that we can find and point out and talk about too. I think that's important.
Okay. Well,
But
we
yeah,
yeah, like
more
so
mashups.
we hope you like this because this was really fun for us. I would do this again in a heartbeat. So let us know what you think. We're interested. Go watch Mask Girl.
I
Go
was a
watch.
English major, thanks for indulging.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we'll see you next week. Anya.
Annyeong.
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoon of Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoon of Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!